There's more than one way to skin a cat and get to the Sweet 16, but I saw a graphic posted where Purdue's the only school where all 5 starters are at their original school. Mm-hmm. Do you take any pride in that? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, we're somewhere where there's good high school coaches and there's good players. I think that's probably the number one thing for us is that, there's a lot of guys for here, in the state of Indiana for us to recruit. And if you have a good job, that's normally the case, right? And but we've just stayed the same path as we have before. Like we've taken transfers before, even though we've taken 2 people out of the portal in 4 years, probably the fewest amount in the country. But we still took someone out of the portal that was a big piece for us last year, going to the Final Four, in Lance Jones. And we're gonna get a guy or 2 here in the portal in the spring. So it's just kind of the way in terms of like how you recruit and how you go about things. Probably the fact that we've been able to keep guys sometimes kind of blows your mind because it's hard, right? If you have 13 guys on scholarship to keep everybody happy. But education's always been a part of our equation. So I think when guys maybe don't play as much or don't start or get their minutes or whatever, you really got to think, I'm going to transfer and then go somewhere else and not get a degree at Purdue. And so like the 2 guys that left us last year, I made them a year before tell me if they wanted another year. I wasn't going to wait to the spring and just, be in limbo. So I gave him a couple weeks and said, hey, just let us know. But, Mason got 2 degrees from Purdue. Ethan had already graduated and was working on a master's. So, both of those guys then, had a change of heart after the season that they wanted to play another, but I'd already used those scholarships. So it makes more sense to do your work in the fall than wait till the spring. Just because now you see so many guys out here getting recruited with crazy money being thrown their way. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, though, because there's no doubt that we're going to, use the portal. We're just probably not going to use it as much as everybody else.
Right, here's Zach.
Zach Osman, Indianapolis Star. Matt, this will be, if I'm not mistaken, the first time you've coached against Kelvin since his time at IU. I'm just curious kind of what you remember maybe about those games. I think you played each other 3 times back then, but also
right.
Maybe just kind of like that time just in the state and the rivalry. You both kind of arrived around the same time, I think you a year
Correct.
before, but just kind of what you remember about the rivalry then.
Yeah, they won 2 out of 3. They manhandled us at their place one time. The other time we played at their place, they won again, but the game was closer. We missed some free throws down the stretch. Eric Gordon played well in the game. That's what I remember about that. The other game that we won at home, David Teague had 32. Got a lot of baseline action for David Teague. He made some really tough shots in that game. Carl Landry had a good game. Those were our 2 best players then. So that's kind of what I remember, just from that, just from like the rivalry and everything that like kind of goes into those games. And but yeah.
Right here, back in the back.
Dustin Schutte, Sports Illustrated, Purdue. Matt, at times this season, guys like Camden and Miles, for lack of a better term, maybe were a little gun shy when they had some open looks, but They didn't seem to have that issue in the first 2 rounds. Just how important is that when you play a team that's plays so well defensively like Houston? Yeah,
Houston is a fabulous all-around team. Number 1 team in the country in defense, but also 3-point percentage, and they have players that come off the bench for them that are great players. And it's one of those things that they're so good defensively. If you don't take that shot, it's kind of like facing a real pitcher in the major leagues, and you get that good first pitch and you take it, you're probably not getting another good pitch. That was a mistake. So when you get shots, you got to take them. Because when you don't take them, you can end up with shot clock violations. You can end up with just pick 6 turnovers. Like they're so active and they do such a good job disrupting the basketball, whether that's their post defense and their doubles, or it's their aggressive ball screen defense, or just playing passing lanes and just their overall pressure. I could go on and on about it. Like they're an elite defensive team. So it's going to be important for us to let it rip. But it's also important for us to do that no matter who we're playing. Like you're referencing real stuff there. Like, when the coaching staff and everybody on the team is telling those guys, like, hey, you got to take your shots. and then they're pausing or passing them up, like that doesn't help our offense whatsoever. You know, we don't have 5 guys out there creating for us. We have a couple guys creating for us. So it's important to take the ones that come your way.
Right here, Bob.
Matt, Bob Kravitz, Indy Monthly. How do you explain TKR's growth this season? And you saw this coming a couple of years ago, even when he was still under Edie's shadow, under his shadow. Yeah.
I would just say his work and the time that he puts in individually more than anything. Like who are you when the coaches aren't around? You know, who are you in the off season? And you know, Trey's put a lot of time into it, but just working on his own. Like he's worked on his body. He's a guy that is very unique. He's physical, but yet he's skilled. And I think the number one thing for him, anytime you're a good player and you can score, it normally teaches you how to pass. You know, because you're getting a lot of attention. Like you should be a good passer. And he's become a really good passer and a really good decision maker. And that's going to be real important in this game. But no, just proud of him for his work. But anytime you put, you know, that purposeful work into it and you know what you're doing and you know how to apply it, you're going to make a big jump. But it's also the opportunity. You know, with Zach leaving, it was a big opportunity for him to step in there.
Chris.
Chris Woodlick, CBS 4. Matt, 1 year ago, you guys were the hunted. At this point of the season, you made it all the way to the championship. This year, obviously very different. Does it feel different? Does it affect things differently with this year's team as opposed to 1 year ago?
Yeah, not really. Not really. It's one of those things where you know every game is tough. Like we were sitting here last year and we had to play Gonzaga in this game, and then we ended up playing, you know, Tennessee. So now being able to play Houston, who had just now this year just played Gonzaga in a very close game. So like, yeah, everybody's, you know, great. Like nobody like messed around and ended up in the Sweet 16, right? They had to earn their way here. And if you look at Houston, like you could argue that they're the best team in the country, especially after their first 5 games. They lost their, you know, 3 of their 4 games early. The one thing that's so impressive about them is that they've had some injuries and they've had some foul trouble, and they don't skip a beat. They keep going. Like, it's just a great program. He's a great coach. But it's no different than playing Gonzaga last year in the Sweet 16. Like, you could give all the same superlatives to Mark Few and his team and his program, and like that was going to be tough. Like beating Tennessee was going to be tough. Like, and obviously we were fortunate enough to do that. So yeah, you're comparing 2 different types of toughness, right?
Over here.
Hey, Matt. Eric Olson with the Associated Press. Just kind of curious about your thoughts on this. It's well documented that all of the teams that are in the Sweet 16 are from power conferences, first time since '85. Do you think that's an anomaly, or do you think that going forward this is going to be the norm?
Well, when we sat on a lot of committees, and I've put a lot of time into it, and that was the one thing when the portal kept going and they allowing guys to, you know, it started with the one-time transfer, right? And now you can transfer whenever you want. And we really talked about that, like why do we want to go against, everyone's a high school recruit at one point. So now it's taken away from the high school recruit and his opportunities. Like, we didn't want that. And then March Madness, and we've been on the, you know, the wrong end of this a couple times, the upsets and how valuable the upsets are to the common fan, and how it's created March Madness. You know, let's not get away from it. Like, it's a big piece of March Madness. So then we're like, I grew up on Ball State's campus, but I grew up wanting to go to Indiana. You know, and so like when kids grow up, like they want to go to the elite schools, they want to go to the Power 5 schools, you know, and now those other schools are really good basketball schools, but they also have to be able to grow their product. And now, if we're not going to grow our product as much and we're going to have a different team every single year, Purdue's still going to have players. I don't care who the coach is and what the situation is. Like, you sell out every single one of your games. Our fans are unbelievable. Like, we have the most Big Ten championships. Like, we've had success for a long, long time. Like, you're going to always have players. But now these guys are just getting cherry-picked from the D2s and the low majors and the mid-majors, and cherry-picked from high major to high major. And so now when you look at that, one of the things we talked about in those committees is this going to take away from the value of a low to mid-major program? Because if it's not fair to anybody, it's not fair to them. Like, that's not fair to them. They get a good player, they develop a good player, they lose a good player, right? And like that piece of it, we talked about taking away from high school recruiting, which it has, and we talked about taking away from the low to mid-major programs. Now, time's going to tell, like, how true that is, right? Obviously, it looks like it's trending that way, but we'll see through data. And the other thing that we talked about was, what you want in life is opportunity more than anything. And 99% of all college basketball players are not pros. Like digest that and understand that. Like, these opportunities for these young men and women to take is not just like getting an all-conference plaque on the wall. It's allowing them a better opportunity to have a successful life and have their own family. And not for everybody, right? Like, some people are going to be successful. Their dad went to college, their grandfather went to college, their great-grandfather went to college. You could just go on and on and on. Some people come from a single-parent home, people that didn't go to college, whatever. And if we're just chasing basketball and we're devaluing education, like, what are we really doing here, right? So from a basketball standpoint, I think there's some things that you got to look at, and there's also some things from an educational standpoint, and to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to help them out, because a lot gets talked about. Okay, these guys haven't been paid in the past, but education has also put us in some great positions there, and I understand that, and I don't think there's any coaches that want to get away from that. But I don't like when you have 200, 300, 400, 500 kids put their name in the portal and they had a scholarship and now they don't. Like, what about them? You're saying, well, that kid should be able to do what he wants. And people that are successful don't always do what they want. They do what's best for them. And we get away from that. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help them and fight them, but also be an advocate for them with that fight. And so, like, that piece of it has got to get fixed. Because now, if some kid was only going to get an education because he was good in basketball, that's a good thing. And now he has a better chance to be successful in life. And now if he just jumps schools and he thinks, oh, I'm going to go in the portal and get money and get a better situation, and now he doesn't get a scholarship when he had one, and now he never gets a degree, which we all know a lot of people out there have been very, very successful without a degree. But we all know it helps from a percentage standpoint. There's no doubt that it helps, young people. So I think those are the type of things that we got to make sure we keep in perspective, not just, hey, this kid should be able to go where he wants. Coaches, leave their schools and go other places and do that. And I understand that's a valid argument. It's a very valid argument. But there's a big cohort of young people in there with a lot of different examples in there. And it's always been our responsibility to try to set the framework of that so everybody has the best chance to be successful. And that really has much not to do a lot with basketball, but basketball really being a vehicle for life.
We have time for a couple more for Coach Painter right here.
Elsie Norton, SB Nation. When you have a point guard like Braden who's seen all kinds of different defenses and individual matchups in his career, does that make your preparation a bit easier on you when you're getting ready to play a team with a defense like Houston's?
Yeah, it makes it easier on me, but it's still difficult. The best thing I can do for him is go play teams non-conference that is like Houston. If we didn't play Houston. But playing Auburn, playing Texas A&M, playing Ole Miss, playing Marquette, like those are some of the people he's played against some really good programs, some really good coaches. But this might be the biggest challenge he's had. This is the number one defense in the country. This is a big challenge for our team, but he does a lot for us. But that we're just hoping through our experiences that we've put him in the best position to be successful. I know he's looking forward to it, and he's very competitive, and he's had a great year. But that's the one thing from our standpoint that we try to do. Some people think like we overscheduled this year, but anybody be a fool right now to think that the teams that beat us in non-conference didn't help us to get to this point, because they were so good. Auburn's so good. Texas A&M is so good. Shaka Smart and like what they do, Chris Beard, like and how they operate, that's difficult to go against. and he's had those experiences. He's been in the Final Four. He's won 2 Big Ten championships. So he's had a lot of different experiences. But with all that being said, Houston's defense could be the best out of all those people I mentioned.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Chris Hagan, Fox 59, Indianapolis. Braden, so many other teams in this Sweet 16, they have a lot of transfers in their starting lineup, which has proved successful. But you guys have the stability. How important is that, not only on the court, but in the locker room, to have stability and continuity in the relationships you do with your guys?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of experience together. Being able to play for our case 3 years in a row, I mean, that builds and helps over time. So having that is huge. And just, I mean, playing with Fletch, I understand what he likes to do, what he doesn't. Same with Trey, I understand his spots he likes to score from, or where he's uncomfortable, or same with me for them. So, I mean, it just builds over time, and it's obviously beneficial for us to be able to be on the court together for so long.
Tom?
Tom Bruce, Sports Illustrated, Purdue. Coach was just saying that your loaded up sort of non-conference schedule helped you get to this point. I'm just curious, when you're watching Houston film and such, are there times when you see that's something like Ole Miss does, or we did this against that, or we did this against A&M, or does any of that stuff ever come up where that non-conference stuff really does translate to late March?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think when you get to playing these teams in the tournament, that's why you have a non-conference like that, to get you ready for games like this, so you don't go into just playing Big Ten teams and then you go in the tournament, you don't play Big Ten teams. So I think it obviously benefits us, understanding how they play defensively are similar to other teams, and their coverages that they do defensively, or their whatever sets they run offensively, I mean, they're similar to other schools that we've played early on. So I think it helps and benefits us for both ways.
Back here in the back.
Serena Raboyne, WHAS 11 in Louisville. This is for Trey. I know you didn't go to school too far away from your hometown, but what is it like to play in this stage a little bit closer to Silver Creek?
Trey?
It's great. I remember when, obviously I guess this is in Gainbridge, but when we went to state and the entire town of Sellersburg came up, and you see all the, at that point it was blue and orange fans out there, and just the support that you get. And so I'm happy that, obviously my family, but even relatives and people from Sellersburg and, everybody that I know can come to this game. It's going to mean a lot to me.
Questions, please, right here, Bob.
Trey, Bob Kravitz with Indy Monthly. What does all this mean to you? You spent all those years developing, you redshirted, now you're coming of age, you're putting up big numbers. What does all of this mean to you after a very tough summer where you put in a lot of work?
Trey?
I think that's something that I'll be able to answer, after my time, in college is done, better. Right now it's one of those things where it's just the next step. I've always thought of it that way, whether I've, succeeded or failed, it's the next step. You got to go to the next game. You got to, try to help your team win in every way you can. So that's how I've always looked at it.
Right here.
Dustin Schutte, Sports Illustrated, Purdue. Fletcher, at times this season, guys like Camden and Miles were maybe a little bit gun shy when they got the ball and had open looks, but the last 2 rounds they were willing and able to knock down some shots. Just how important has that development been these last couple weeks when you play a team as defensively sound as Houston?
Fletcher?
It's been very important. Obviously, teams like to take away certain actions, and when you get it out of your hands and get it to those shooters, that's oftentimes the best shot, especially for Purdue. And they shoot such good percentage, and they put a lot of time into their shots. It's the best shot for Purdue when it gets swung to them, and they're going to continue taking, and we're going to continue to help us win games.
Questions, please. Right here, Chris.
Fletcher, when you think about how good they are in defense, only allowing 58 points per game, I know every possession is important, but even more so, and like you said, you have to value and take those shots. What kind of pressure does that put on that into the court?
Fletcher?
Yeah, I don't see it as pressure. I think you put in a lot of work to get into these spots and play in these big games against great teams. So now it's just executing, so trusting in ourselves and trusting in the work that we've put in to get to this spot, and then ultimately trusting our scout that we're going to get the ball in the right spots and we're going to knock down the shots.
Scott?
Fletcher, I'm curious, what is it like for you to have your dad as such a big resource as a coach, as a scout, as a basketball mind, as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, my dad's been awesome. Early on, I thought he was really hard on me, but ultimately it just got me to be the player I am today. And seeing his experience and what he's been through, college, NBA, whatever it was, he's helped me a ton. And then ultimately my brothers learned from him as well. So being able to listen to my brother and talk to him, and you just get a whole nother perspective. And it's just another coach that wants the best for you and wants the best for your team.
Questions, please. Right here in the back. Thank you.
Preston Harvey out of Louisville and WLKY. Trey, how have you seen like your growth and development, and what have you learned from your previous experiences at Purdue to help prepare you for this stage here?
Trey.
I mean, for this particular stage, I'd say the run last year that we had, the scouting, the preparation, just being on this stage before. I think those are all experiences that you have. Obviously, from a skill standpoint, this past offseason really helped. I put in a lot of work. Like I said, I'm just glad it's paying off.
Right here, Tom.
Trey, Coach Painter mentioned earlier about you becoming so much a better passer over time. Can you just kind of explain that a little bit as to how you become a better passer and what all goes into that?
Yeah, that's as these guys will tell you, that's not a trait that I thought I was going to develop. But no, it's just one of those things where if, there's going to be people doubling me, or we're going to have open shooters that knock down a high percentage of shots. Like, you got to get it to them. You got to get it to people who can really score the ball. And so I have confidence in everybody on our team. So it's the best look for Purdue.
That was Trey. Questions, please. Right here.
Dustin Schutte, Sports Illustrated, Purdue. Braden, obviously in the first 2 rounds, you guys had the early tip-off times. You're going to play 10 o'clock, 10:30. Does your process change, or how do you prepare for such a late night tip-off?
Braden.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's different. You wake up, you eat breakfast, then you get ready to go. But now we'll have time. I think we get to come in and have a shoot around here and stuff like that. So I think it'll benefit a little bit. I mean, it kind of sucks because for a competitor, you got to wait all day to go compete late at night. So I think that part sucks. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be ready. And I think playing in a game like this, like the Sweet 16, I mean, they'll get you amped up enough to where you're ready by game time.
Right here, Bob.
Yeah, Braden, what is it about their defense that makes them so imposing, Houston?
Braden.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with their bigs. I think their ball pressure is really good. I think they can corral the ball on ball screens, and they cause havoc. And then they got quick, athletic guards that are pressuring the ball. So, I mean, you're dealing with 2 tough defenders on you. I mean, for my case, coming off a ball screen or whatever whatever the read is. So, I mean, just that. And then when they're in the post, I mean, they got 2 big guys that are super athletic. And then they're really good with their traps. So I think just for us, understanding that and just being simple with the ball, I think we'll be fine.
Questions, please. All right, seeing none. Thanks, fellas.